Welcome back to WSAV News 3 today at 11. It is the day following the election, and after an aggressive ballot, voters have spoken. Georgians cast their ballots in a number of high-profile races. For the primaries, there is an overwhelming number of decisions to be made. Dr. Geoff Bowden, Associate Professor and Coordinator of Political Science at Savannah State University, is back to help us dissect this massive menu that we saw. We were talking about the governor in the last segment, and Governor Kemp's seat, of course, is up for grabs due to term limits. Last night, we saw a crowded field for Democrats and Republicans that has led to a GOP runoff between two candidates with Rick Jackson, a political newcomer, and Lieutenant Burt Jones. Can you elaborate on this race?
Yeah, so a lot of what's going on here has to do with what's going on at the national level. Georgia, as you know, has been sort of a centerpiece of some of the president's legal issues. So what's been going on there, I think, has a lot to do with what's happening in Washington, D.C. Burt Jones got the endorsement from President Trump. There were other candidates on that ballot, Brad Raffensperger in particular, who played very prominent roles in whether or not the president was going to win the Electoral College votes from Georgia in the 2020 election. And so there's a lot of background going into this, and because of this, there's an increased incentive there for federal politicians to get involved in state elections. So what's going on there with Burt Jones and Rick Jackson is very interesting to watch. It's going to continue to be interesting to watch. And what's important there is also paying attention to the money. Yeah. Rick Jackson has an enormous amount of money on his own, doesn't need a whole lot of money from candidates. Burt Jones, on the other hand, has the endorsement from President Trump. Yeah. And then, of course, you have an enormous amount of backing of Democratic candidates right now because of the concern. And at the state level, we have two statewide U.S. senators who are consistently elected from the Democratic Party right now. And so it's really on the edge, but it's feeling like right now the overwhelming amount of enthusiasm. We often talk in political science of whether or not there's an enthusiasm gap. There seems to be a slight enthusiasm gap right now that favors the Democrats over the Republicans.
So we're going to play hopscotch just a bit because you mentioned the Democrats and Republicans. And in this next election cycle and what's to come, there's a chance that Democrats see for things to work out in their favor.
It's entirely possible, yes, it is. It's definitely possible. And part of the concern there is we have what we call in political science a thermostatic election cycle. We just tend to vote for Republicans one time and then we vote for Democrats, and there's really no other explanation sometimes of what that's happening. Incumbents always have a very difficult time when the economy's bad and other sorts of things are happening on the global scale. Trust is being eroded. There's chaos and turmoil. We often have disease that pops up. Obviously, we had COVID 6 years ago. Ebola is starting to pop up. It's even affecting us personally. You know, and so what's going on is we're having to pay attention to all those sorts of things, and whether or not politicians had anything to do with that, they can still be affected by those sorts of things. And so it's important to pay attention to the larger mood. And that's why political scientists oftentimes try to take that temperature with what we call generic ballots, right? Democrats, if you were to vote generically for Democrat or generically for Republican, how would that work out? And Democrats have about a 10-point edge right now in that. So that will obviously benefit them going into it. Republicans have a lot of money, they have a lot of history, and right now they have, at least through the primary, a president who's willing to back some of them in the primary process.
When we talk about money, Jackson spent so far nearly $65 million of his own money. Jones more than $28 million. But let's switch course and talk about Kesha Lance Bottoms and the overwhelming support that she received in a field that was, she had 6 other candidates in the field with her?
Right. So she has the benefit of name recognition at not just the state level, but at the national level. I mean, she's actually someone that you can recognize at the national level. And so that's a big issue for her, is name recognition. Mayor of Atlanta, one of America's largest cities. It's certainly a city that has played an important role in the civil rights movement in the past, but also a very important role today as we continue to think about how we're going to move forward as a multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy. And she has a very particular role to play there, and I think she's got an enormous amount of support. Again, my calculations suggest that she got about 146,000 more votes, or the Democrats got 146,000 more votes than the Republicans did in that primary, and that's something that I think she should be smiling about this morning.
Okay, so we have about 30 seconds left, but I do want to touch on the U.S. Senate race and the fact that Buddy Carter is out of the top 2.
Yeah, so the U.S. Senate race, again, name recognition is probably playing a role there with Derek Dooley. Yeah, and so he's the son of someone who's very important to a lot of people in the state of Georgia, right? So that's very important. Buddy Carter, I'm not sure Buddy Carter's name recognition moved beyond Georgia District 1 a whole lot. So he has been our representative for quite some time, he took over for someone who had been in that seat much longer, whose son also has name recognition in Georgia 1, right? And propelled him to a victory last night. So yeah, my guess is that Buddy Carter will reappear somewhere, right? The interesting thing is that President Trump didn't endorse in the Republican primary for Senate, and so that's an interesting thing there. Some of them were trying to take over that particular piece, who was the Trump candidate, and so that became important for them to talk about. But when President Trump didn't endorse, there's no signal going to a lot of the voters there, and that may have hurt Carter a little bit, but it's going to be a very interesting runoff there.
All right. Dr. Bowden, so much information, so much insight. This needs to be a podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, because there is so much that we did not get to. We appreciate your time, though.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. And you can find a full breakdown of primary election results in Georgia and information on South Carolina's next month on our website by visiting WSAV.com/electionHQ.